Welcome to the interview room. Muzzy checking in, the time's here. How you all doing? Alright, let's begin. Let's have a chat about the fact that I wanna interview the best fighters in the world, and that's that. Had a lot of guests from everywhere, all across the globe. Fighters tell me about the journeys, training, fighting on the road. It's Muay Thai, get it straight. Here to show respect to great fighters around the world. Ask questions and investigate the lives of great warriors, revered and notorious, infamous and...
Hey guys, it's Mudzy here from Muay Thai Interviews again, and my next two guests, they've been on before, I've got them on again, is Darren Riddler Reece, who's the owner and head trainer of Riddlers in Perth, WA, and also Mark Pease, who's the owner and head trainer of Strikeforce Gym in Queensland. Both guys are very, very knowledgeable and extremely passionate about what they do, and in this chat we talk exclusively about the mental side of training and fighting. So I hope you all enjoy it.
Thumbs up, we're on.
How are we, boys?
Well, thanks, guys.
Good, thanks, Mudzy.
Good, boys.
Peasey, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. But before we get into the good stuff, I feel I need to address the elephant in the room, which is Mark Pease. Can you tell us a bit about what's been going on the last month or so, mate?
Liverpool Football Club are the Premier League World Europe champions. Everyone should know that. Thank you, Mudzy. I appreciate that.
Oh, just in case they had it, mate, well, you do now.
I don't know. This is the occasional post goes up every couple of days, mate. So it goes up and let people
I feel they're probably directed at a few people too, just to rub salt into the wound.
Oh yeah. Mark Simpson's one of them. Gav Fuller's another. He's another.
I may have seen a few of those posts.
yes, that's all good.
You'll
all
never
in jest.
walk alone.
Good banter.
Yeah.
So, boys, this episode or this chat, we're going to purely focus on the mental side of things when it comes to training and fighting. So we all know, obviously, the physical benefits of training and fighting that Muay Thai give us. Lose weight, gain confidence, good for your health, all that sort of stuff. But what about the mental side of it? How important is it to have a mindset 100% ready when going into a fight and the training leading up to it? I'll start with you first, Peasey.
Mate, look, to me, it's as important as the physicality side. I mean, people might give you percentages and things like that, but I'm not really interested in the percentages. If you train physically, you need to train yourself mentally. So if I got one of my fighters locked in for a fight, from that day, they're training physically, they're also training mentally. I like to give people positive affirmations. They should write down who they're fighting, put it on the wall or a mirror in front of when they go to bed, last thing they see at night, first thing they see in the morning. So it's generally in their mind. But to continue, have a strong belief, one, their abilities, two, trust their coach, and three, they're there for a good reason. They're there to fight. Now, as we all know, Muay Thai is not a game you play. It's a very dangerous sport. So if they're not 100% locked in the mind, they can get seriously injured indeed.
And Dazzo, what's your take on that? How do you get your fighters ready when training and going into a fight mentally?
Yeah, look, I have them write down goals at the start of the year, sort of short-term goals. Something that they want to achieve in the next month. Sort of a midterm goal, like say 6 months to the year, and long-term goals. So we know we're on the same page and know which way they're heading. I also sort of encourage them to make goals for the training sessions so that they go into, if they're not booked immediately for a fight or in the power phase or fight camp for a fight, it helps keep them disciplined and pushing themselves and mentally thinking about something, giving them direction rather than just floating through the training session.
And how do you get your fighters back on track? So say like you're going through a training camp and it can be a very emotional roller coaster. Some training sessions you do good, some training sessions you think, I'm getting nowhere. How do you, when you can see a fighter slowly starting to lose that mental edge, how do you bring them back in?
It's like anything. I mean, you got to know who to pat on the back and who to give a bit of a slap to. But I have a coaches board as well, and on my coaches board, I have the specific things what each fighter needs to work on, be it emotionally or physically, to bring them back. I'm pretty sure Darren would do the same. After each fight, I sit down with my fighter and say, okay, where do you think you went wrong? Where do you think you went right? Let's talk about that. So that way then, as I said, we formulate a plan anyway from the start of the year. And hopefully, if they give me the right answers, we're working towards it. If there's something that's wrong, we've got to try and nut the bolt straight away. So there's a lot of people that, I said they get anxious or anxiety slightly before a fight. They've got to understand, the fighter themselves have to understand their trigger, because as a coach, you can't do that all the time. You might be getting them ready and somebody else ready at the same time. That fighter's going to know, okay, if they start to feel that anxiety start to creep up, when the trigger point happens, they're going to go, hang on a second, that block, I need this. I want this. I've trained hard. This is my time. Move that thing aside. That seems to work quite a lot with my fighters, because I have seen them. I mean, Darren's probably the same. You can see them getting anxious, but once they've got that self-talk, the same self-talk on each time, okay, I've trained hard for this. I want this. This is my time. I'm going to win this fight. This is my time. I find that works quite well.
And what about yourself, Daz?
Yeah, I get my guys to something that I learned and did myself about halfway through my career. Sort of started looking into and discovering the benefit of the mind and training the mind, and sort of started learning to do meditation and positive affirmations, and including in your positive affirmations the things that you wanted to improve. So I encourage my guys to do the same thing in each day, especially when they're in a fight camp, what we call power phase, to sit down, do a meditation, and then visualize the things that we're working on, the things we're doing on pads, the things that is part of the game, and seeing themselves doing it well, but also dealing with situations where things might go wrong in the fight as well, not just focusing on the positive, but learning to deal with negative things that can happen in the fight, perhaps getting hurt or getting caught, or and having to come back from that, so you're prepared for that.
Are you guys big supporters of mind coaches, or do you think that's just purely a personal choice that someone makes if they need one or not?
Look, I think myself, I think it's a personal choice. I believe, with emotional intelligence, if I can, as I said, with my fighter plan that we put together, as Darren, by the sounds of things, Darren does the same sort of thing. My fighter plan, I give to each fighter. They have to tell me what motivates them, what their goals are for a year, 3 years, and 5 years, and it's stated what they think their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, and how they like to be spoken to by a coach in the corner. Now, if we can find out what their weaknesses are, they've got to be honest with me, because as a coach, I'm accountable. So for me to get them and look at this plan, start formulating a plan to get their weaknesses to strengths. If we keep working on the same thing all the time, they're not going to progress. So they've got to actually help us as well. So at times I've had to speak to, I'm talking to people that are into their 20s. I've had to talk to parents to see if there's something happened when they were younger and things like that. And usually there's a little bit of a root of a problem. So we can tackle that first head on, works all the time. So it's a hard thing. Mind coaches, I want to be that person that's coach, because if they're going to somebody else, I might tell them something completely different to what I've told them for a fight and so forth. Darren says a good thing about visualization. We use that all the time. I want them to visualize the hand being raised, the belt put around the waist, visualizing how they're going to train in the session. Because we all know each training session they do, not every session is going to be a great session. Some might be a bad session or not a good session. So, but my big thing for them is any bad training session you do is the one you don't do. It's as simple as that. And you've got to take those little hurdles.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to what you said, Mudsy, and like what Peasey said, it's kind of personal choice. Some people kind of need that guidance and that direction. Some people don't. Some of the fighters that I've had are so mentally strong and focused that they don't get nervous before the fight. Well, they certainly don't show it. They don't need revving up. They're in the right place, whereas others constantly need help and guiding with that. Kaylee also got into sports psychology and the mind early on in her career, and she saw a sports psychologist before every fight to help program her, so to speak.
Yeah.
So get her in that right place, and it was part of her preparation.
Yeah.
And while we're on this topic, Peasey, I thought it was interesting while we were chatting before that you brought up that you've actually went and gone and done a coaching course to better understand fighters.
Yeah, look, as a Bachelor of Sports Coaching, 2 universities that do it, the University of Queensland and Monash University. I wanted to get to understand athletes a lot better because I said, up to probably 10 years ago, Darren's already hit the nail on the head. Fighters they were that mentally strong anyway. They trained, they fought, they went out, they trained, they fought, they went out. Those things changed. I think social media has taken a little bit of a step towards all these people, and I don't feel there's still some hard athletes out there. But one of the courses in the degree was I did a year on sporting psychology. Now, I'm no sports psychologist, but I learned so much with emotional intelligence, how to get and understand that. So I have to know how my athlete works, what they like, what they don't like, what colour, what foods they eat, all those little things play a pivotal part. If I'm going to get my athlete to this plan that we set in place for them, and as Darren said, some people might have to use a sporting psychologist. Now, I've got one that does use a sporting psychologist because she has a mental block that we can't get past. Now, that fighter knows that, so they've got to go there, but it's not stemming to do what's fighting. It's obviously something stemming back in her life a little bit longer ago, so it gets to a certain point and we're going to block that. Now, I've tried, but I can't give up on this athlete because I need her to be able to say one day, I kept going, but Peasey said this, and if I hadn't stopped and done it then, I'd still be the same 20 years down the track. I kept getting that mental block. But if I can get over this hurdle with this girl, it's going to be fine. But, the athlete today is completely different. And I said, I felt if I didn't do a little bit more of extracurricular in learning, I feel that I wouldn't be able to. I'd still be, don't get me wrong, I'd still be able to train fighters and so forth. But I feel I probably would have lost a lot of fighters because I wouldn't be able to push them the way that I used to push them, As I said, sometimes you got to learn when to hug somebody, when to give somebody a bit of a slap. But each athlete I gym that trains and fights to me, every night I talk to every fighter that walks through my door, ask them how their day's been, what's been happening, just so I'm knowing if there's anything that's going on. And I'm a big thing of everyone at the end of the class, they all clap hands, shake each other's hand, give each other high fives to walk out. Because I don't like cliquey groups. I want everybody, and if someone saying, it's a big thing, man. I mean, even though it's an individual sport, we're a collective, all working for the same goal. So that's how we're big on that.
Yeah, and I think you're right with the whole social media thing. I mean, because back then there was no there was none. People didn't even have videos on their phones, so you couldn't see the videos of your opponent training or hitting pads or doing whatever. And people are always looking up.
The old video has to be sent to you, and it takes 3 weeks for the fight to be over by then. But we just look. Even to this day, I just remember being back with guys like I had Peasey or Danny Devas, and you just get at the back, you have a joke, get ready to fight. Darren would say the same about Chris White and Eugene Ecclebourne. Yeah, all those sort of guys, man. You just get ready, go out, fight, finish. That was it. So something's happened in that 10-year period, and I actually really believe that social media's got a lot to do with it. People are really worried about what people think about them, at times,
Yeah.
It's a real big hard. It's a hard thing.
I think also a lot that has contributed to it is, again, with social media and the internet, the age of information. There's a lot of information out there, and I think like the development of sports like MMA and UFC. The Americans involved, they're very into researching things, and there's a lot of research and things going on, in weight cutting and nutrition programs and sports psychology and all that. So because there's more information out there, tests being done all the time, that information is being put out there, so people are getting into that and reading it themselves. Like I myself, there's podcasts on fight dietitian, fight nutrition, weight cutting, and it's completely evolved from the days where we used to start dehydrating ourselves 5 days before, and go for a run and lose 2 kilos, but eat and drink half a kilo, put it back on, and just stuff like that. It's completely evolved.
Oh, 1,000%. Well, like even to the, we do biomechanics and the physiology, learning how to kick better and how to use the hips better by just different exercises and so forth, which again we did at uni. But some of the books I'm reading, how to film it, break down frame by frame to see where actually a fighter's actually going. I mean, this takes time, a lot of time, and you can't do it with everybody. But if you've got somebody, I can see somebody that he can kick better, but he's not actually throwing his hip across his body. So if you film it, I can break it down frame by frame, and actually, which we do. But I've got Brittany Dohine now, as I said. She's a completely different fighter. She's been with me now 3 weeks. Now I've been filming her each week from the start to now, just to show her where we've been putting improvements into her kick and so forth, and showing her where she can go. Look, stone frame by frame by frame. Oh, that's where your hip's not coming across. That's why you're not kicking as hard as you possibly can. So these things, don't get me wrong. Social media, if it's used in the right way, is fantastic for the sport. 100%. Couldn't agree with it more. But then you get the other side of it, where you get the troll people. They're trolling the fighter. They might be fighting that fighter's mate. Said, "Are you going to kill him?" and things like. Some of these people take that on board. Shit, hang on. He said he's fighting me, but he wants his mate to kill me. You kill him and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's where the bad side of it is. But with the social media side of it, as I said, the scientific approach now to Muay Thai it's a godsend. I love it. Absolutely love it a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely good, and it's helping the sport evolve. Sometimes though,
it helps keep us learning too.
It is, but sometimes I feel though there's too much. Not only, but with everything, sometimes there's too much because you see someone, they've done an experiment and it's meant to do this, but for every experiment done, someone always finds an experiment to debunk it. Yeah. But I mean,
or just haters knock it and say it's bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I try, especially my girl fighters, that they take these things on board quite a lot. And I've always told them, don't think everybody's going to like you, because they're not all going to like you. Don't worry about it. You're not going to get everyone to like you. People are going to talk about you, good, bad, or indifferent. Only person you need to concentrate on is you. Block all that out, because we also happens with the female. Guys do as well, but I think it's a little bit more evident with the females at times. They're a little bit more emotional, but I've got some boys that are emotional too. But I think I've got a couple of girls that as soon as someone says something about them, they really take it to heart. But you got to understand, it's somebody else's opinion. Don't worry about what their opinion is. Just worry about your opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And Daz, while we're talking about mental side, a fair while ago I read an interview you did. Can't remember where it was. A few years ago, but basically you talk about the mental side of fighting, and you refer to a moment where you were at a show getting one of your fighters ready out the back. They were warming up, they were in the right headspace, you had them all good. Then just as they were about to go on, one of their parents come past and said, "Good luck, son, don't get hurt or break a leg," or something like that. And with those couple of words, it just completely changed your fighter from ready to having self-doubt all over their face. Can you talk about that?
I mean, it's probably pretty much every Muay Thai fighter's worst nightmare, isn't it? Is seeing someone break their shin or their leg, and people talk about it for a long time, and it's just sickening because you can just think it or imagine it happening to yourself. But it was the old school break a leg, good luck comment. Which for us means something completely different. Completely threw him off. So it was I think it was actually Eugene Eckelboom, and it was just simply a matter of cracking a few jokes about it, having a laugh about it, getting past it, and then getting back onto pads and back into the zone. But it was definitely having to have a few laughs about it, make a few jokes about it, talk about, oh God, what a nightmare, and then just get back to it. So it became forgotten, just moving past it basically.
Yeah.
Has that changed the way you've done anything? Like, do you set a rule for your fighters if they're fighting, right? No family or friends out the back, or do everything you got to do before you come here? Does that change any way you lead up to it going out there?
I do, I do kind of do that. I like to keep them out of especially in that final prep part. Everyone's a little bit different. One fighter might have a tradition of hugging their dad or their brother or sister before they go out, and that's part of their routine. If that's the game, then I definitely want to keep doing that. But if it's friends, wanting to yell out, smash him, come on, let's do it. Stuff like that, then I try to avoid all of that stuff. Keep them at distance. Most of the shows now have security on the change room doors to stop that kind of thing anyway, and keep the fans and family out.
And what about yourself, Peasey? Have you ever had to mentally reel back in one of your fighters when you can see them sort of strain, or they're watching fights and getting nerves or whatever?
Yeah, look, I think I mentioned it before. I had a guy, it's probably close to nearly 8 years ago. This is why I ended up doing the degree in sports coaching. This guy was fighting, and he was in the fight really, really well until the fourth round. For some reason unknown to me, he shut off. And when he shut off, he got a, come back to the corner in the round 4, and I was giving him a bit of a verbal tagging. Nothing bad, just say, come on, push it down, just go harder, stronger, let's get in there. And he shut right down, completely shut down. And then the 5th round, he didn't do anything. He eventually got tagged, walked away. And after I just asked him why, he said, well, I've gone out there to get belted by him, and then all of a sudden you turn around and verbally abuse me. Why do I want to continue on? I thought, what? And that to me was something that made me think about, I've got to do something to evolve with this sport, or we're going to be left behind. But then there was guys on the other side of the coin. Aaron Lee, I'd have to go look at Aaron Lee, because he'd be out in the crowd before the fight, talking to people, getting photos, having a giggle and a laugh. I'm going, where's Aaron? But I didn't ever change that, because that was the way he got ready. That's how he actually calmed himself down, by going out in the crowd talking to people.
Yeah.
Whereas Danny Dudowski would sit out in the back, as would Peasey, and they had these headphones on, looking straight ahead, talking to nobody. So, as Darren says, each fighter is different. Once you start, and if you get a fighter program in place, you'll understand what fighters are like, what they don't like, and that way then you work so that you baby them if you have to, or you put a little bit of a hardness on them and so forth. So, but every fighter's completely different. But
yeah, and I'm not sure if you guys, you probably would have heard or seen the other month with the UFC and that fight, with UFC fights back on. There was a fighter who made his UFC debut, and he ended up going back to his corner at the end of the second round, and basically told his corner that he was done. He didn't want to come out, and his corner were trying to, "No, mate, you're good. Like, you've got one more round. You can do it. Now, he ended up verbally just quitting and not coming off his stool. Have either of you guys, as trainers or even fighters, ever been put in that situation? And what have you boys done?
Yeah, certainly have. I've been put in that a couple of times. But look, to me, I'm accountable as a coach, as is Darren as well. Now, if somebody comes back to me at the end of a round and they've said to me, I'm done, and even though they're still standing and they're looking good, but if they say they're verbally done, that's it, they're done. I don't care. I'm not interested in fight persons. My first priority is to look after my fighter, 100%. Now, if he comes back and says to me, means his mental game's gone, he's going to get destroyed and ruined. And I will never, ever, to this day, I'll never put myself in that position. Like I say, get back out there and fight. No way in the world. If they said they're verbally done, they're done. End of story.
Yeah. Once they've lost it, they've lost it. That's 80%, even 80% mental, 20% physical kind of saying comes from, when a fighter loses it in their mind, that's it, done. And you can see fights change like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't experienced as a fighter myself. I have seen it happen before in a fight, and the closest I've had to that happen to me is just a fighter quit during the round because they were tired, just stopped. That was it.
Yeah.
Injuries a little bit different. I've seen fighters want to go out, but it's like, nah, you can't, mate. You shouldn't. It's different.
Yeah. Oh, look, the injury side of things, I agree with it, man. But when I'm seeing someone that's doing well, and then all of a sudden you see them hold, they might have got hit hard once, right? And you can see the whole demeanor just completely changed in the initial game. And they come back and they say, "No, I'm done, man. I'm finished, man. I'm accountable as you are as well as the coach. I'm not going to put anyone back in that. If they've said they're done, that's it. And people might abuse me or say bad about it for me, but at the end of the day, my first priority is to my fighter. And if they said they're done, they're done."
Yeah. I suppose it would be hard in that situation, especially if you like, and you would know what your fighters' potentials are, especially if you think that they haven't reached that potential and that they could still give a little bit more.
I think it's more these guys that have had between 1 to 10 sort of fight. The guys that are up and around 15, 20, 30, 40 fights plus, you know them by then. By then, you know
what they're like. Yeah.
You know their emotional game, you know their physical game, you know their spirit, the whole thing. You know how they work, and you know how to get them to get. If they're getting a touch up, you know how to work them back into. Rewind them back in to get back out there again with the motivation side of it. But some of the new people, even though they put down this fighter program, you're still learning. 1 to 5 to 10 fights, you're still learning what this guy's good at, not good at. What they're like under pressure, because they might tell you under pressure, "Oh, I'm so good under pressure," but they've never fought for you. All of a sudden, they start fighting. Hang on. So that way, as I said, when to give them a hug and when to give them a slap. But it does take a little bit of time.
Yeah, in that early stage of their fighting career, they're learning so much about themselves as well.
Exactly.
Our guys that have had 20, 30 fights, they've got that confidence in themselves, and they know they can get hit and hurt and come back from that, have that desire to get their way back and win the fight. Whereas, the novice fighters, the early ones, they're still learning that about themselves, just like pushing them in training, finding their new limits and then going past those limits so that they can discover what they can actually do instead of the idea that they have in their head.
Yeah.
And as trainers, have you guys been surprised? Does it happen a lot as trainers where you get surprised by someone where, say, that you haven't really seen them fight before, they haven't had that many fights for you, and they might not look that good at training or hitting pads, but then when they get to the fight night, they just blow your mind away. You're like, I really didn't expect that. Or, it goes the other
100%.
way. It goes the other way where people are so good on pads and they're good at clinching and sparring, but as soon as they get put in under those lights, they just freeze up.
Yeah. 100%. I've seen fights. Aaron Lee, I'll go back to Aaron Lee. Aaron Lee would probably have to be he'd hit the pads good, but he would train very, very lazy, and to the point I would get worried. But come fight night, he'd be out there talking to people. God, what is this guy's problem? But he'd click into gear. Whereas someone like Peasey, some of the new guys they train so hard all the way through, and then you know what you're going to get. But I've seen people on the opposite end of the scales thinking, "My God, what are you doing? If you really, really trained, you could have been world champion. Oh, you were a world champion. Nothing I can say about it,
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And the people, like what Peasey said, it can go the other way as well, where people just look like amazing in the gym, like they're going to be world champions and move like they are, and you get excited about their potential, but their mind just lets them down in the fight. They don't have that will to win and that hunger, or they just lose confidence in themselves with hits or aggressive opponent or something like that. They just can't deal with it. So I've seen that a few times before as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And I suppose with the whole as we're talking about the mental thing and the mind thing, not only does it help you guys develop as trainers, but I suppose it would help you actually read and understand people better as well, not even to do with Muay Thai, just in everyday life.
Yeah, well, I mean, Darren, for the same, we're dealing because I promote back again as Darren promotes. You're not dealing with just normal fighter puppets. You're dealing with business people, accountants, solicitors, venue promoters, venue people, and all those sorts. So you've got to, got to understand how each person ticks. I can go into a venue and I can tell straight away if somebody, if I'm talking to them about putting a promotion on, if they really, really want me, just by sort of the initial handshake, if they're really forthcoming and giving and so forth. So, yeah, you get to understand a lot of people on the mental side of things in many aspects of life, business as well as our sport.
Yeah, definitely. Dealing, everyone is different. Dealing with dynamics, when you manage a gym and you manage fighters and people, it's sort of the people managing business. Keeping everyone happy and making sure like things aren't cliquey and that everyone is operating as a team. Everyone's satisfied. If there's been any relationships and then there's any problems from that. Trying to manage that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm hearing you there. You there.
Yeah.
Hey lads,
it's not just a fight coach or a pad holder, mate. You've got to be a dear Abby. You've got to be a fatherly figure, a brotherly figure. All these things, and usually it's every night. How's your day? Oh, a really bad day. Doing something wrong. The boyfriend. That's come sit down, have a drink. Let's have a drink. Just relax. Go for a run. Put your headphones on. Come back. We'll have a chat about it afterwards. Because it changes. If you got somebody comes into the, especially in the fight gym, the little kids are different. But if you get a fighter that comes in that's had a bad day, the whole dynamic of the gym can change real quick if they're in a bad mood and so forth. And I try and pull that egg straight out, have a chat, move off for a little bit, because as we all know, one bad egg, bad eggs turn to a group of bad eggs quite quickly. So we try and nut that on the bottom.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I've noticed with training, especially with the mental side of it. Like a lot of the time, I'll have a bad day at work or shit day or whatever's happening, and I'm like, oh fuck, do I go to training? And I'm like, just go. Yeah. And I go to training, and 15, 20 minutes into training, I'm sweating like a pig, and I'm like, what was I even pissed off at before I even came here? Oh, and then I can't even remember what I was so frustrated about. I'm like, oh, it doesn't even matter because I'm just struggling to get my breath at the moment. So that's another mental aspect of the things I really, really love about the sport and just the training in general.
Well, that's what Darren, you sort of said that before with the emotional intelligence, man. If somebody, as they walk into the gym to start training, as I said, I chat to everybody. I can pick up on the vibe straight away. If they're all in a good mood, how's it there? It's all really good. You let it go. But as I said, if one's walked in, they may have had a argument with the boyfriend on the way down, or the girlfriend, or had a bad day with the boss, or got fired. I've got to really nut on to that fault quite quickly. Pull them aside, have a chat, see if I can get them. And usually, at times, I have sent people home. So look, mate, it's probably not worth training tonight. Just have the night off, relax, come back tomorrow night in a bit different frame of mind. As I said, changes the whole dynamic of the gym. You got somebody that's not in a good mood, or they had a really bad day, and send her friend, like, what's wrong? And they start bringing them down. And no, I don't like it. So as I said, the emotional intelligence, I think I've got to be able to understand each fighter and know what works, what's not working, colours, what they like to eat, the whole bit. Once I know all that, as I said, it's not just being a fight coach. As I said, it's like being a fatherly figure, a brotherly figure, a dear Abby, an auntie, or whatever. And then doctor as well at the time, there's a bit of psychology put in there as well to help those people.
Yeah. And everyone in your gym is like that, even like from personal training sessions, person to person is just different. You train them slightly different ways, but how you speak with them and the kind of conversations that you have with them. There's ones that are real thinkers and real hard on themselves and negative. You can see that they have negative thoughts, or they come in a dark place, and you've got to pick them out of that to get them going. And then you've got the positive ones that are just like buzzing and struggle with focusing. So they're everyone is different.
And be a Muay Thai coach, they said. It'd be easy, they said.
Just kicking punch off.
That's it. Look, I love it, man. As I said, especially after doing that degree, of just being to understand an athlete better, to try. For me, I love to see people succeed, be it my athletes or people I know or other coaches and so forth. It gives me a buzz that I know that person or I've helped that person to achieve their goals and go forward and become bigger and better than what they were in the first place. That gives me a buzz. I really, really enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. And I heard another good story. I was speaking to one of the trainers, and he told me a really good story where he had a student in his class. I think he started with him about 13 or 14 and was training, every week, and ended up having a couple of fights. And then he did his final year of, this is going back a few years ago, he did his final year of year 12. So his father said to the trainer, he goes, listen, I'm going to take him out of Muay Thai for this year. I want him to focus on his studies. And the trainer's like, okay, are you sure? Like, even, I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe you should just, even if you just want him, he doesn't have to fight, maybe just drop him back to 1 or 2 days a week training. And he's like, no, I'm going to take him out. He goes, okay, no worries. So he took him out, didn't do any training for that year, got into cars and women and all that sort of stuff, and then never went back to Muay Thai again. And the father actually went up to the trainer after all that happened, and he's like, that was the worst mistake I ever made. I wish I'd never pulled him out of Muay Thai, because he just lost his focus and his direction.
That's the hardest time, is between the ages of about 16 through to about 21, because all athletes discover, girls and boys, some of them just going out to nightclubs, just other things, and keep them grounded, and with Muay Thai and other things as well. 9 times out of 10 you'll keep them. But if you like that guy, if you hadn't have done that, I guarantee that kid probably still fighting today.
Probably. Yep.
Yeah. It's a difficult age, that.
It is. It really is.
But it's all about. I've learned. It's all about just prioritizing. For you, what's the most important thing? Because if you want to do something, you'll do it. Like, perfect example. You see, people, once they hit that 16, 17, 18, they get a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and then they're gone. Yeah. Why? It's because they're prioritizing what's important in their life at that time.
Yeah.
If you focus on your priorities, you can do whatever you want. It's just you've got to prioritize in order what you want, and then once you've made your priorities, then it's easy. You've just got to stick to it.
Yeah.
And in my time when I was training in Thailand, I found that the mental side, it really wasn't talked about that much amongst the Thais and in Thailand. Just generally, they sort of just expect you just to train hard, work hard, turn up to fight, and that's all they expect. Anything else, you've got to deal with that yourself, i.e. the mental side of things. Is that what you guys have found when you had your time in Thailand as trainers and fighters?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. You trained, you slept, you got up again, you trained, ate, and slept, and did the same thing over. There was no one sitting down with me. Look, back when in the early 90s, when I was over there, hardly anyone spoke English, and we spoke very limited Thai, because I couldn't say, oh man, I'm really nervous about fighting this guy, or I'm anxious. They had no idea what I was talking about. They would you really train hard, and to be honest with you, it really didn't become a problem, because, as I said, because you're training hard, I felt confident in myself that win, lose or draw, I was going to do well anyway. I didn't have time to really sit down and contemplate, well, what happens if I get beaten by this bloke? What happens if he's got that big elbow coming? Or things like that. Really didn't think too much about that. Again, because I didn't have the social media thing, I could sit on my phone going, well, this guy's really, he's had 300 fights. Man, I didn't have that. I got told what he was. They didn't even have scales. You'd walk up there, you go to the plane, they'd grab you on the arms and around your waist, go, okay, you fight him. Fight him. And that's how it worked. And you did it. You didn't really have time. As I said, I think the social media thing, it works good. We all know that. Promoting your shows and promoting sponsors and so forth. But when, as a fighter can look at another fighter and say, okay, well, hang on, geez, he said he's had 300 fights. Then all of a sudden, someone's saying, he might be fighting somebody else, and then they'll go, you'll kill him, you'll do this to him, and that person starts to believe the other person's hype. So I really try a lot, especially with some of the fighters. Most of them are okay, but there's a couple of, they really get stuck into I heard, look at this fighter, mentioned he's had 3 more fights than I have. Look at it. Don't worry about that. That's only on Facebook. Don't worry about that sort of thing. So those sort of aspects, the mental game, back in the early 90s, even up to the early thousands, you didn't have to worry about it. You just got in, you trained, you fought, and you did it. Nowadays, as Darren was saying before, a lot of them have mind coaches and things like this. Some of them get on the social media and troll their fighter that they're going to fight. Go on YouTube, see how many fights he's had, and think, oh, geez, that was good. So they're starting to doubt themselves by doing all this. I'd rather they.
That's it. It doesn't help. It hinders. Yeah.
It does hinder. It does hinder a lot.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
was our time. Just train and fight, especially in Thailand.
Yeah.
You lose, train harder.
Exactly. That's all it was. But nowadays, like even as a coach, and you must admit as well, Darren, I'm looking at other people who our fighters are fighting, and I will view YouTube fights and think, well, okay, they're good at this. This is what we can work. So I work to what that fighter. I can see what that fighter can do. That's how we do it now. Back in the old days, you have to wait till somebody sent you a VHS from Thailand to have a look at what the fighter was going to do. And it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, just forget it. Just fight him. Just do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So things have changed.
And I think also maybe a lot of the time because they're fighting so regularly over there, whereas here, you've got 6 weeks, 3 months, however long it is to your fight. So you've got that whole build up where there's, a lot of them can just fight every fortnight or month if they want to. So the more that they're fighting, the less that they actually have to think about that stuff.
Yeah, but true. I'll give you that.
It's their job. It's their job too. It doesn't matter if they're scared or whatever. They don't put thought into that. They overcome the fear, and because they're fighting for income, and it's just that traditional Eastern, obviously Thai culture that they're just training. I think it's more the Western influence where the mind and the nutrition and all of that has come into it. I mean, look at the Thai fighters. They're drinking Fantas and Cokes and eating
cigarettes even, mate.
Eating chocolate, smoking cigarettes, but then they just cut weight and they fight. Stuff like that.
I think we've lost something in that for us, especially in the Western society, because you go over there, everything's done completely different. They still do what they were doing 20, 30 years ago.
Yes.
They fight, they get rubbed down, they fight. Nowadays, my fighter goes, okay, you don't see, if one of our fighters is fighting, you don't see the Thai getting on Instagram or Facebook. Oh, okay, we'll troll him. Oh, he's had 2 fights more than me. Or, they don't care about us. They just fight. Like you said, they just train, eat, fight. Whereas it's a lot different, So I try to keep as many, because we hold the old troll dogos quite severely on the social media, and then you can be working your fighter's mind game and their positive affirmations and so forth, and all of a sudden that they read a post that put up about the guy that they're fighting or the girl that they're fighting, and somebody might say, "Oh, you're going to kill them. I've seen them fight." They start to be, "Oh, hang on, 35 people in that guy's comment said that they're going to kill me." You know what I mean? So they start to get a little bit of self-doubt for themselves. So I try to now, I don't want them anywhere near that. If they're fighting a certain person, I don't want them anywhere near any of their posts at all. I try to actually, I know it doesn't work, but I really am a big advocate of saying, listen, guys, don't look at their posts. Don't worry about what they tell. That's for their view. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And can I ask you guys, when you were fighting back in your heyday, how did you guys keep your nerves and your emotions all under check? And did it get better as the more fights you had? Like, were you able to, as John Wayne Parr says, not necessarily worry about the boogeyman, so to speak?
Yeah, don't worry about the boogeyman. Look, to be honest, back then, when I first started fighting, we used to go to a venue up in Brisbane. Now, in the very, very beginning, there was no weight divisions or anything like that. You'd go to a venue, they'd weigh you in on the day, and they'd say, all right, come back in an hour, let you know if we've got somebody for you. So they have to come back, okay, mate, look, you're 61, he's 64, he's had 9 fights, you've had 7 fights. Yeah, we'll match it. You didn't know. So you didn't have time to worry about what you're doing. Then all of a sudden into the early 90s, then it started coming on, fights were picked and you get weighed in and all that sort of thing. Watch his hype and your hype. And they were really good days because, it was, a little bit of banter went on, but nothing, there was no aggression, not like the UFC when someone's, I'm going to eat your kids and all that sort of stuff. It was like you had a bit of fun with it all and those things. So I don't feel back then that I really worried too much about the boogeyman or anything like that. I just thought I did it, Yeah. I'm not sure about you, Darren, you probably would have been the same.
Yeah, it was just simply trying to get yourself relaxed and talk positively to yourself.
Yeah, yourself.
And it's something that definitely got better with practice, obviously with more fights that you had, because a large part of those nerves comes from fear. You get past a lot of that fear from confronting it. So the more fights that you have, the easier that it got, the more focused that you were, and the more effective you were in relaxing yourself. It would sometimes be just if it was a big fight or something like that, and you knew you were really up against it, that you would maybe get more nervous than normal. Knowing, and again, that comes down to fear and sort of like danger. You would get that would make you more nervous because you had a little bit more fear.
Yeah, well, see, that's still evident today. Like I said, I keep telling my fighters the same. You hit the nail on the head because you said the same thing. When you start feeling that fear, I said, I'd have that self-talk. Hang on, I've trained 8 weeks for this fight. I've been to Thailand. I've fought over there. It's time for me. This is my time. Mm-hmm. So that meant like the anxiety or anxiousness creeps in. But I've seen guys, and you probably still the same. They let that anxiety get over the top of them. They start, I don't know if I can do it, man. No, I don't know if I can do it. Mate, you should have had your self-talk ready. You've got to believe in yourself. You've trained hard for this. We want this. You want this. Everybody wants this for you. The only person that's not believing at present stage is yourself. You need to have that self-belief and the self-talk when you start feeling anxious. Tell yourself, I'm trained. I'm ready. This title's mine. Go out and believe it. So, yes, the mind game's as important as the physical game. 100%.
Most definitely.
Because when I end up having a chat with Carnage, he brought up a good point because he was doing a bit of mind coaching stuff and getting all into that as well. And he said that what he would tell fighters when they would ask him how to deal with their nerves is he would basically say, well, when he goes, this is what I'll do. He goes, when you get in the ring and you're looking at your opponent, you think to yourself, is it them or is it me that's going to have that hand raised? Now, if you answer them, well, you shouldn't be standing across from them in the first place.
Yeah.
So he just says, basically you tell them it's me. It's going to be me who's going to win. It's going to be me who has my hand raised, and basically just get rid of that self doubt. And I thought that was quite good what he brought up. It made a lot of sense to myself.
Yeah. Visualization plays a huge part in this sport. Go to bed thinking about it, believing it. Seeing your hand raised. Visualize what you're going to do to them rather than what they're going to do to you. And at the end, visualize yourself getting your hand raised or the belt put around your waist. Visualization plays a huge part. Again, stems back to emotional intelligence. You've got to be smart enough to understand. You start feeling a little bit anxious. You've got to have these things in place. Okay, here's my mental block. I'm anxious. No, I've trained hard for this. Hang on, visualize. And that's right, Mark. Because your hands are being raised. Your one being raised, not his. If you believe, again, it's a huge belief's a huge thing in this sport.
Definitely, lads. Well, lads, before we part ways, do we have anything else that any of you would like to say on the topic?
Look, I could say, talking like this and talking about the things that we are talking about and the process and the importance of the mental training and visualization and positive affirmations and things like that. Although they are and can be a big part of it, it's not to say that you can't fight well without doing those things. Like how when we first started the first half of my career, I never gave any thoughts to any of this.
Right.
And you can still fight well. You can be a good fighter. A lot of people have these things naturally inbuilt.
Yeah.
But at the same time, by doing them, you could make a good fighter a great fighter. You can improve your game from it. Like adding in strength and conditioning training. You know what I mean? Strength and conditioning training isn't necessarily going to win you the fight for a good fighter, but it might make a good fighter a great fighter.
Yeah.
you know. So it's these things you can all add to your game to make you, you know, incredible. But it's not to say that you can't be a good fighter without them.
Oh,
but the mental part of a fight is still huge. Like if a fighter loses it in a fight, then they're going to lose that fight. And you see it happen all the time. Fights change. A couple of shots get landed. The fighter loses confidence. Yeah. Bang, it's downhill from there.
Yeah, I'll agree, mate. There's mental games, not for, there's a lot of athletes, same with you guys. There's a lot of fighters that don't really need to have that. They get in the back room, they get wrapped up, they get rubbed down, they're ready to fight. You know, they're already switched on. You don't have to work with them. But there's still that element now, because of certain aspects in not only that, it might be home life and so forth, it does take them a little bit to get in the ring. Even though you think that, do they really want it? You know, you have to physically and mentally work on them to get them in there. But each, as we said before, each athlete's different. And that's why, you know, you do the same thing as I do. You work out a fight program for each person. My coach's board tells me what each fighter's got to work on. So each coach knows that this person needs to work on this emotionally or physically or all those sorts of things. So everybody's different, mate. So
you've got fighters where you feel like you don't, you know, they've done the work, they've trained the game plan.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk to them about the fight prior to the fight. And then you've got others that want to ask you questions all the way up till they walk out.
I usually find it's the guys that have had, say, 20 fights plus, we know the routine, you know it as well. They get in, you know what to do, they do their own thing. But it's the person that's had from 1 to 10 to maybe a couple more fights that you really have to, and so, you know, we're accountable as coaches. I've got to try and convince this person that they are a great fighter, talk to them, you know, nurture them along, work their mind, help them in their mind games and so forth, because it's new to them as well. They may never been kicked in the head hard or punched in the head hard before. All of a sudden they get cracked in the head. How do they come back from that, you know? You know, as a coach, it's a job that's, you know, as we all know, you got to be a mother, a father, a brother, you know, a shoulder to cry on, and all those sorts of things. So once you understand each and every athlete, it's good. But the fighters from 20 fights plus, it's usually just the same routine. We get in, we do what we have to do, we fight. It's the ones under that group that you got to nurture and convince them and train them and help them. Some are easier than others, as we all know, but it's a game that it's a game that I enjoy and love, as you do too, Darren. I know. So let's bring it on.
Yeah, well,
bring it back. Come on,
bring it back.
Bring it back.
Well, I'll leave us with some parting words of wisdom. I saw a good meme the other month, and it said, "Don't let a win get to your head, and don't let a loss go to your heart."
Nah, not bad.
That's great.
That is
good. Yeah, learn from it and move on, move forward, improve.
Excellent, boys. All right, lads. Well, that sums up that chat. So thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it.
No worries at all, mate. I do appreciate it, mate.
Thanks very much, boys.
Thanks for putting it out there too, mate. I think this will be a good one for people.
Yeah, great chat.
You can answer and explain to me the history. I had to throw a vicious knee. I got a passion for the art of 8 limbs. I'm just asking from the heart. So as I conclude this interview, thanks so much for sitting through. Loved all the fighters and the folks that listen. This for you.